Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears. I'm usually here with the big guy, Matt Via, as usual, but he is not here. He's not here today. So I get the pleasure of interviewing our guest. I'm going to get right into it, give you a little bit about his bio, and he can just correct me if any of this is wrong at the end. I believe it's right. I'm here with Erik Huberman, CEO, marketer, public speaker, thought leader, author of The Hawke Method, which is a book that I've read and I've talked to you guys about before, and I absolutely love it. The fastest growing marketing consultancy ever, and it's 8 years. Is that right, Erik?
Yeah, just over.
Gotcha. So he's an Inc. top 25 marketing influencers, Forbes 30 under 30. Worked with companies like Red Bull, Verizon, and worked with over 3,000 brands, over 200 employees. Let's go ahead and bring on Erik Huberman. How you doing, Erik?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so grateful that you're here. I've talked to you a little bit before, when we got started about how, our listeners, our brokers and owners across the country. And I've talked to them several times about how, gosh, they got to have patience and they got to, get into the marketing game in a sense of, hey, this is a little bit of a long-term play. Don't look for something to happen overnight. And that's really what I want us to talk about today. But before we get started, I want to get a little bit of your background. So tell us, how you got started. I know you're an entrepreneur at the age of 9. So what's that look like?
Yeah. I grew up with a father that was an entrepreneur, funny enough, in the real estate space. So he was in waste and real estate. So from a really young age, my dad was kind of pushing me to go make my own money. He, when I was, 3, 4 years old, I don't think I've ever shared this. He got me excited about the idea of saving enough money to get the next size dollar bill. So it wasn't to buy anything. It was just like, I could save enough to get a 5, then a 10, then a 20, then a 50. And I climbed up that. And then I really wanted to make more. So at 6 years old, I grabbed a bunch of my parents' stuff, threw it in a trash bag, just decided they didn't need it anymore, and walked door to door trying to sell my parents' things to our neighbors.
Yes, that's incredible. I think more kids need to hear kind of that message. I know I've got my kids out there, hustling as it is, but that's such a good story. But if my kids are listening, sell some of your own stuff. Don't put my stuff in a bag and go out and try and sell.
Yeah, I think I was selling his golf balls for 5 cents a piece. He has plenty of these. That's how I thought about it. But then at 8, I grew up wanting to be a guitarist and a musician. And at 8, I told my dad, hey, I need an electric guitar. I need to go, I'm going to need one. And my dad's like, great, get a fucking job. Was literally his response verbatim to an 8-year-old, which, if I heard that now, someone tell their 8-year-old, yeah, get a fucking job. It'd be like, come on, man. But that 8-year-old, meaning me at the time, you take it at face value. It's not like I took that as an insult. I was like, oh, okay, I'll get a job. And so
yeah, you were learning.
Yep. I tried the lemonade stand and selling flowers on the side of the road. And the only fun part of that, I realized that as a smaller 8-year-old, if I ran in front of a car, I set up at a stop sign. And if I stood in front of their car, they wouldn't run me over and they'd feel guilty. I learned at that age, nobody likes to say no. Right. So I would just stand there and be like, you want to buy? And they'd have to tell me no. And very rarely would they tell me no. So I did well there, but not well enough. And so then I started buying and selling Beanie Babies. I saw people getting crazy for them. And as an 8-year-old, I ended up making a few $1,000. So I bought guitar, I bought a BMX, I saved some money for a car. It was a fun start to really liking business, thinking it was a means to get my guitar. And looking back, it really is what kicked off my passion for building businesses. And so fast forward, decided I wasn't that good at music, went to just thought I'd want to go into music management, and then went, music can just be a hobby. And I went to business school at University of Arizona, and thought I would get into real estate. Worked in my dad's real estate office for a year, realized I could never work with my dad. And so then I got a job selling Cutco knives, kitchen knives, door to door, and wanted to learn sales, thrived in it, broke all their records, was their top seller of the year, all this stuff. So I turned out I had a knack for sales at that point. And then I helped start a storm drain filtering business in California based on a law that passed. That was my junior year. Was almost going to drop out of college because it was also the in vogue thing to do at the time. That was 2007. And then went, wait, no, I'm not dropping out of college to filter storm drains. So left it to my partner. He built it into a multi-million-dollar business. It was cool. And then got out and I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. But I'd really always liked real estate. So I'm going to get a job as a commercial real estate agent. got my license, started at Sperry Van Ness 1 week to the day before the entire banking industry collapsed in 2008 in October. And so I didn't know what that meant, much like a lot of people. I had no, barometer. So I was like, whatever.
Right.
I kept calling. And within a couple months, I had like 35 million in listings because I was good at selling. Like, yeah, we'll get it done. I couldn't get an offer on a single thing. And so about 6 months in, I started looking at other options, maybe starting something. And I ended up spending 6 months straddling it, building an online music company. And by the time a year was up being there, it was a little less than a year. It was end of July. We had a real estate auction, and the agency, the brokerage, completely dropped the ball in supporting the auction. So I brought a shitload of listings to it, but no one showed up to buy. And I was like, all right, I'm out. And so started doing this online music business, was business coaching for musicians, built that for 2 years, hired a CEO to take it over because it was profitable, but not that big. And I realized it wasn't going to be this massive thing. And then I built a t-shirt subscription company online, sold it after a year and a half, built a women's activewear brand, and worked at the incubator. It launched like Dollar Shave Club and a bunch of other brands that you would know. I did that for a year and then spun out and started my own little marketing team, started consulting, advising, realized marketing is just a really broken industry. So started building a team that I thought was doing it right. So fast forward, you name some of the numbers, but yeah, we're about 300 people now. We actively manage marketing for about 600 brands, but have worked with about 4,000 at this point. We have a 50, and we also have our venture fund. We're on our second fund. It's a $50 million fund. We have a financing arm where we'll give loans to our clients to help them grow faster when they have working capital constraints. We're launching our software side of the business actually in 2 days. So it's been a fun
2 days. Yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk about this before, and you just mentioned it there, for a second ago about marketing being a broken industry. And I've heard several interviews of you talking about it, and I want to make sure that our listeners get to hear it as well, because I completely agree. How many times do we see ads of, hey, I made $1 million in a week, and I can show you how to do the same thing. Or I subscribe to everything. I'm that guy. I love swipe files. I love reading marketing and so tell us a little bit what you mean about the marketing industry being broken.
So really, it's just, the problem is it's one of the only industries that you don't need any type of certification to manage large amounts of money. So in California, which I know it's California, but there's like 260 different jobs that you have to have a license for, including milk delivery, or everyone knows the person that cuts your hair needs a license. We manage $350, $400 million in other people's money. We don't need anything. And so the issue is, you can have a good salesman that's good at spitting out jargon, and he can convince people to give him money. And usually you don't know that it's not working for a few months, and so these people run these agencies that just burn through clients, and take advantage of people that don't know better. And it's the bad underbelly of our business, but it's about 99% of the agencies out there are just full of shit. And they don't even know they're full of shit. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it is, but they're idiots, is frankly the truth. I'm just going to be about it. And listen, you deal as someone that came from the real estate business, and I invest a lot in the real estate business. It's similar. The 99%
very low barrier of entry.
Low barrier to entry. At least you need a license, so there's at least some commitment there. But still, you go out there, like the agents listening. Like, how many agents have you run into that you're like, how are you advising someone on buying or selling a property? Like, who is this person? It's worse in marketing because you don't even need to get the license or have any oversight. Like, there's no regulation whatsoever. So, this is something we're working on, but getting an industry regulated is a very difficult thing. And it turns out, I started actually exploring this. The problem with regulating marketing is, by nature, lobbyists are considered marketers. And so so trying to get a lobbyist to literally regulate themselves, very difficult thing to do.
Right. I can only imagine.
I went down that path and literally had 3 different lobby firms say, no, we're not going to do this.
I can only imagine.
But yeah. And so so what ends up happening is you have tons of agencies that don't understand the basics of building a business. They can sell you, again, buzzwords. We all will do your Facebook and your TikTok and this and that. And a lot of business owners are like, yeah, I think we need that. You're the guy that does it. Okay, fine. The problem is they have no idea how to leverage those things to actually grow businesses. They don't understand the biggest thing that I see, and we talked about this before we got on, the number one problem I see in marketing is people don't understand that it takes time. There's something called a purchase cycle or consideration period. Every agent would know this because, the moment you meet someone that wants to buy a house, do you sell it? Is it done? Oh, does it take, they need to go check it out? They need to do their due diligence. They need to go into escrow, like all those things. Yeah. Same thing with any type of purchase.
Yeah.
So people need to, and it's not as always as structured, but people take time to make purchase decisions. And so people will run these marketing campaigns looking at a day by day performance, which is completely misleading because it can take weeks to months to get, conversion on something. And if you don't track it appropriately, you're going to just miss out on what's actually happening, good or bad. And so the issue is, I'd say, again, 95+% of marketers don't even understand that fact. And they just look at the numbers on a daily basis. And it's not that complicated, but it's complicated enough that you can't just throw an easy dashboard at it. And so then nobody knows how to look at it. And so that's one example of many things that they just don't do right. And so the opportunity cost of marketing is massive if doing it right to wrong.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Completely agree with that. And I talk to brokers all the time and, they say, gosh, an agent came into my brokerage. I had a great interview with them. Man, they didn't, I wasn't able to close them or, they didn't sign up and join my brokerage that day. And I'm like, listen, leaving a brokerage or joining someplace where you're going to work and you're going to, hang your shingle, let's say, as an entrepreneur, as an agent, it's not the same as buying like a tactical flashlight off of a Facebook ad.
which I'd argue a tactical flashlight still takes a few weeks on average.
Yeah,
we've legitimately marketed tactical flashlights, so I know that.
So I hope everyone's listening there. It's just not that's not the process, that purchase cycle. You're exactly right. So, I want to talk, right, because in your book you talk about awareness, and I think many people can achieve that level. Right. That's the easy level. You can post a sock online and say, put your logo on it or something. And you've created some level of awareness, let's say. But, awareness, nurture, and trust, kind of define those a little bit. They're in your book, kind of define those and talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we call it the 3 principles of marketing, also the tripod, so to speak. And because if you don't do one of them, the whole thing topples. So awareness is, how do you introduce your product, service, company to a new potential buyer? Potential being the key word, not necessarily a buyer, because again, given a consideration period, we're just talking about focus on just getting the awareness out there. Now, the awareness to people that have a high propensity to buy is important, but you really want to make sure that you're constantly filling that, as it's also called, the top of the funnel, because you're going to lose customers, you're going to lose brokers, you're going to lose people inherently over time. I always I've had pushback on this, and I'm like, well, people die. Not to be morbid, but at some point you're losing your customers. There's a timeline on everything. So might be a while, but at best that's going to happen. And so you want to be constantly creating new awareness, because if you don't, you will decline naturally. So you have to be filling that.
Yeah, and then growing or you're dying.
Exactly. And so then nurturing is what you do to follow up with those people, to actually get them through that consideration period to buy. It's email marketing, it's SMS. If you're in sales or you're hiring someone, it's literally just phone calls. It's, it's content. It's all the things that will warm someone up to get them to buy faster and have a higher chance to buy once they've already been introduced to you. So awareness is that introduction. Nurturing is what you do until they buy. And then post-purchase, how do you keep the retention of a customer? Whether it's repeat purchases in a product company or it's retention of an employee, it's you still want to nurture them. And the last piece is trust, also known as brand. Why do I, if you're the only one telling me this is great and everything, why do I trust you? And so if we're talking again about broker recruiting, it's what third-party validation, why do I know that you're going to be the best? Who's used you? What reviews do you have? What press is out there about you? If I'm not aware of you already. And if you're a massive brokerage that everybody knows, well, you've created your brand, and trust and brand are synonymous. And so brand comes from what you deliver consistently. If you're, the broker that's the best at, apartments in your city, and you are on every major apartment building and every big apartment project wants to use you. If I'm an apartment broker, I might be looking at you guys, maybe, because I might go, well, it's already taken. How am I going to step into that? Or, well, these are the guys that are known for it, so this is where I want to learn if I'm a younger broker. So these are all things that what you deliver consistency builds that trust as well, or your brand. Before that, third-party validation is really important to build trust.
Yep. And guys, we talk about this every now and then too, right? So, when you have a new agent join your brokerage, it's very common that we'll get online. Obviously, we follow a lot of brokers, and we'll see a post that has, your logo, is the largest thing on the post. You'll see maybe the agent's headshot, and you say, welcome, Betty Sue to the brokerage. that's great. That's letting everyone know that, your brokerage is growing, but how much more impactful would it be if you posted a video of Betty Sue telling everyone why she joined your brokerage?
Yeah.
Right. And so, we're talking about little micro steps that can make such a big difference in that purchase cycle of another agent who's saying, okay, well, maybe I'm not ready to move today, but if I did, gosh, that brokerage that Betty Sue joined seems like, that would probably be a pretty good place for me as well.
Take it a step further. Betty Sue and all of the other brokers at your firm should be posting that and posting on a daily basis, because then they're all staying, this is a whole different marketing strategy, but they're staying top of mind while constantly reinforcing your brand, and all of your agents become a marketing channel for your general brand, which they already are with the signage they're putting up, et cetera.
Yep.
But like digital, like the real estate industry has not taken as much advantage of this as they should. We have a couple big real estate brokerage clients, but and that have done really well, but it's rare that they're looking at digital as a group effort. Like these, the way agencies have been set up and brokerages have been set up is really, really bifurcated because of the way by nature, like they're building their own business. They pay a commission to the firm. They usually have some shared resources, and that's fine, but it's not built leveraging digital in the right way necessarily.
Yeah. The power of user generated content is,
reach.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You got an office of 50 brokers all talking about, in the same area, all talking about your brand at the same time. They're all helping each other build that trust. I've seen your brokerage everywhere. You guys must be good. And I know you, so I'm going to use you. Like that's what that does. So it helps the individual when they share, but it also helps everyone else.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense too, because just like you were saying, there's an impact being made of Betty Sue posting a video to your brand's let's say Instagram page. It's a completely different impact when Betty Sue's posting that to her own, right? That already shows hey, maybe I didn't tell Betty Sue what to say, that kind of thing.
And when Rick is posting about Betty Sue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and everyone else is kind of sharing that as well. Yeah, and that builds great culture inside of the business as well, because Betty Sue then is affirmed that she made a good choice over and over. So yeah,
this is something we do. Like we even do it with our own team. Like we're in very different business, but like whoever's the best performer of the month, we have our Hawke star, so to speak, and our whole team shares out congratulations to this person. Like we call it the daily share. We have our entire team voluntarily. We don't force it, but a good portion of our team wants to share content from Hawke all the time, and they're putting it out to their networks and their audiences and their friends. It helps a lot, recruiting and business.
Yeah, I already want to work there. And so, let's talk a little bit about metrics and measuring, right? And what I mean by that, I keep looking at my notes here. I've heard you talk about 3-second views before. And, does that mean anything one way or the other? So, I've got 1 million views of this video, or I got a million followers, but, there was no change to the bottom line or minimum change to the bottom line over, I'm not talking about a month, right? You could get those things and maybe not change your bottom line in 6 months, but no end result as far as bottom line, changes there. And I've heard you talk about the scoreboard before. And so, so I talk about that, with our clients and with our listeners, that, maybe you're looking at the wrong scoreboard when it comes to whether or not your marketing is working. So what would you say, would be the scoreboard that most people should pay attention to, and what to measure?
Well, I'm also going to throw a curveball. Like if at the end of the day, revenue is what matters, or whatever the goal is. Obviously, generally we're working on revenue, but let's say it's a recruiting effort and a hiring effort, then yeah, having how many brokers are you getting in, applications, et cetera, how is this driving? I would look at that over a period of time. And I actually believe, like, if after 6 months you haven't seen any results from your marketing efforts, you're doing the wrong marketing efforts. So I do believe, like, don't get caught up in vanity metrics. I got 69.5 million views on a TikTok video I put up. Didn't drive any business for me. It's a cool, like, feather in the cap of like, yeah, I went viral, but like, it's not it didn't really do anything. It was my friend's flying car launch, and I took a video of this flying car announcement and just went berserk all over the news everywhere.
Oh,
and so it was fun, but it didn't do anything. And so, like, I'm not going to go beat my head against the wall to try to make that work. And this is actually another good point in business in general, is you should be going down the least path of resistance. What's working? Focus on that. Don't try to make something work. And that's I see that a lot, and it's actually more. I pulled this from more of an investment theory than a marketing theory, but a lot of times I see a lot of similarities where it's like when you invest in a bunch, we have our venture fund. When we invest in companies, our best use of time is to spend with the best performers, not the worst. And you
Okay.
inherently, as a human being, want to focus on the problems. So you go try
Right.
to fix the broken portfolio companies, and you waste a bunch of time when, frankly, as an investor, you have to be able to rely on the company to be able to help itself. So my best use of time is actually to help the guys that are performing do even better, because we're going to get even better lever on our money versus the guy that's struggling, that's probably never going to succeed anyways. But I'm going to have to go spend half my time with this person. Like, it's the same thing on your marketing efforts. Like, if you ran a video on YouTube that got 1 million views and it did nothing for the business, don't go try to make it work. It seems like it's probably not going to do anything for you. So focus on the things that are working and try to figure out how to make those better and double down on those.
Yeah, I absolutely, I absolutely love that. Well, I want to ask this last question. I want to be respectful of your time, but I think this is a big one when it comes to marketing or just anything, right? You've had your hands in, so many different types of businesses. As entrepreneurs, we can go looking for those problems sometimes. We can go looking for those obstacles sometimes when they don't even exist. But I would say, what's the biggest mindset, tip that you would give us, when it comes to overcoming obstacles as a business owner, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think the best way to put this. Remember, and you're gonna have hard fucking times because as a business owner, you're going to deal it's just inevitable. And I don't know a business owner on the planet that hasn't gone through difficulties and always does. And that's part of it too, is just know that it's never going to end. So don't think that it's going to end. Like, you're going to be hit as a business owner, and that is the job. And so once you find a way to accept that, it gives you a sense of freedom of because when it's expectations versus reality, it's, I think, a Buddhist saying is
Yeah.
that the gap of that is where suffering comes in. And it's like, if you expect shit to be crazy and then shit's crazy, you're like, yeah, that's how this goes. And it helps settle down the nerve side of it, and you just know what you signed up for. And I would say, focus on that along with it being long term, sustainable, so that you don't get, because it's hard at times. And I think as any business owner, rates are going up right now. So as a real estate company, buying's down. So I now help manage our real estate portfolio, and we're watching the decrease in cap rates and the increase in interest rates. It's like we're just getting squeezed to the point that we probably just shouldn't buy anything for a little while till things come down. So there's a good chance that we're going to see a reduction in prices in the market. It's already happening.
Yep.
And happens every decade. So take a breath. It's going to be okay. It'll last a year or two, like it always does, and then it'll start to come back. And just make sure that you understand that that's always coming. So just plan accordingly. And again, take a deep breath. You've had a great few years of real estate. Jesus Christ. Celebrate that, smile about it, deal with the next couple of years. We're the same way, by the way. We're pretty similar in terms of our cycle. So this year is a tight year for us. And it's but I had 8 years of rocket ship. We'll have to have a tight year. And again, what's really nice, and this is the other piece of this, is looking at those challenges is also the place where your competitors and the people around you are going to fail. And if you can get through it, you're now one more step ahead of everyone else, is a big part of how I reconcile it. Because we've gone through our challenges constantly too. And when COVID hit, we lost a quarter of our business overnight. It's just boom. And we ended up with, that was March and April. And then our record month at the time was June of 2020. We ended up recovering in May and coming back and rocketing up in June, given the time. So what part of what happened there is a lot of our competitors just literally shut the doors in March and April. We're seeing it now. There's several agencies in LA on the marketing side that have just shut their doors like that, because this year is a really tough year for marketing. Everybody's not hitting their growth numbers and pulling back on marketing because it's not as big of a year as anticipated. And you're watching tons of layoffs in our space and companies going down. And I look at that as, my business isn't thriving. It's doing great, but it's not growing like it has been as the fastest growing marketing company in the country. But I'm but it's still probably outpacing everyone else in my industry. And we get through this and the landscape is clear and we're in a strong position to just jump again.
Yeah.
And we watch that happen. So again, the mindset side, it's really just knowing you're going to deal with challenges, but every challenge you overcome is another step you took ahead of all your competitors, because it is a competitive landscape.
Yep, I absolutely love it. So, if our listeners, wanted to pick your brain or ask you a question that I didn't ask on the podcast, tell us the best way to learn more about, obviously you, Hawke Media, but connect with you as well. And guys, know, as always, I'm going to put everything in the description below for ease of use.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to connect with me, it's easy on any social channel @or/ Erik Huberman. And then if you want, well, we're also happy to always run a free marketing audit. So that's at hawkemedia.com. It's pretty easy.
Yep. I love it, guys, and I've done that before, so I can highly recommend it, and let you guys know that there's a ton of information that came from that audit as well. So, Erik, I appreciate it so much. I'm going to put a little bow on this, and thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you as well.
Well, guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, how's it going? Hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside of it. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. As always, there's no better time than the present than to go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com, see all the cool things that Matt and I have to help you grow your brokerage, no matter what phase or stage of the business that you're in. As always, we bring on amazing guests, just like Erik, for one reason and one reason alone. That's because we just want to be part of your win.